all the while he is portrayed as being sort of a Superman-like figure. So in terms of like the top guys in the WWE, WWF formerly, you kind of have archetypes. You sort of have the archetypical badass, anti-hero, anti-authority type of performer. This is the mold of a Stone Cold Steve Austin, who is, to my mind, the best who ever did it. He is, he's brash. He's no nonsense. He does what he wants when he wants to, and he'll fight against the man. You've got the underdog archetype for the type of guy who's at the top of the heap. This is a less used archetype, but you kind of get that with a Daniel Bryan, and unsuccessfully. And as far as I'm concerned, they tried to make John Cena out to be that underdog on more than one occasion when he was sort of at the height of his powers. And then you have the unstoppable Superman archetype. This is Hulk Hogan. It's the guy who, no matter what, is going to overcome all the odds. He's going to flex his muscles at the end of the night. He's going to hit his two big moves, flex his muscles, pose for the fans, kiss the babies. The women love him. The men want to be him. He's the all-American champion. And they kind of have tried to position Roman as being all three at the same time. The problem with this is, of course, you can't have an underdog who is also Superman. You can't have somebody who is anti-establishment who is also so clearly the face of the brand, and the guy that behind the scenes is the guy that they're really pushing for. So it's really kind of unfortunate, because I think Roman has been victim of the fact that he's just not been able to be himself. Kind of where Roman excels is when he gets to be a version of himself sort of turned up to 11. And who that person is sort of a cocky guy. He's kind of got a bit of a swagger to him. He's a good-looking guy. He's big. He's muscular. He's got cool tattoos. He's got a pretty cool outfit. He looks like a badass, and he's able to fight like a badass. But let's not pretend that he isn't incredibly marketable. That he isn't there to be sort of the face of the brand. That he isn't, a guy that WWE establishment type of people would want at the head of their brand. I think they took a good step with him this past Monday. So the story goes, and it's the nice thing about this. It's kind of when wrestling is done right. You kind of don't know where the lines of reality are being blurred into fiction. So Brock Lesnar was supposed to be at Monday Night Raw this past week, apparently. He was, but he wasn't there. He apparently was not in the arena. It was sort of a last-minute decision that he wasn't going to be there, or maybe he wasn't able to make it, and he made that call sort of at the last minute. The night prior, when WWE was in Vegas for the pay-per-view Elimination Chamber, Brock Lesnar was out on the strip with Dana White. And, of course, Brock Lesnar is a former UFC heavyweight champion. Out on the strip taking selfies with Dana White while a WWE pay-per-view is happening in the same city. So it's an interesting thing. You've got Roman, who comes out and he just basically says, I'm here every single week, and I don't care what people think. I don't think that that's right, that Brock Lesnar can basically hide behind his contract. Now, of course, this is where it starts to blur into, obviously, this is them taking what might be real life circumstances, but playing it into the fiction. But that's done really well, and honestly, I think this was the best that we've seen from Roman Reigns. Of course, he was given the bullet points of what to say, but it didn't sound like a scripted wooden performance from him. He was talking from the heart, and he was talking passionately, and he seemed like a guy that I actually wanted to cheer and care for. That his point of view was one that me as an audience member is one that I can get behind. Now, God knows, next week he could be back to sort of towing that weird line between being an underdog while still being an unbeatable Superman. And don't get me wrong, like I'm no less disappointed that they're not going to go with the guy that I was kind of hoping would end up in the WrestleMania main event, Braun Strowman, who's been having just a phenomenal year. But you know what? This to me, anyhow, is a step in the right direction for Brock Lesnar. So, or for Roman Reigns rather, to face off against Brock Lesnar. I think that if we keep on seeing this side of Joe and I, it could be a good thing going forward. Speaking of former UFC champions in the WWE, Ronda Rousey is officially a WWE superstar. She made her official debut. Well, she made her debut at the Royal Rumble, and then they did the official sort of quote-unquote contract signing at Elimination Chamber, which means she's going to be part of the Monday Night Raw brand. I thought that this was really an interestingly done segment that they did. Basically, if you're a wrestling fan, you already know this, but contract signings in the middle of the ring, they never go right. They never go according to plan. Usually somebody ends up on their butt, usually going through a table. But they did this in a really interesting way. Ronda came out. She was kind of, she seemed kind of shy. She seemed, very happy to be there. She's been a wrestling fan for many years. Of course, her nickname, Rowdy Ronda Rousey, is a tip of the hat to Roddy Piper. Rest in peace. But, she came out and she was kind of shy and she was sort of reticent. And then there was a moment where, there was a story a couple years ago where she got into the ring at WrestleMania and kind of made a fool of Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, who were kind of the on-screen power couple in the WWE. Triple H is actually like head of talent relations, and Stephanie McMahon is also a VP in the company. So, they are for real power positions in the company, but on screen they're sort of the on-screen authority figures as well. And they did this brilliant thing where Kurt Angle was saying, weren't you just saying in the locker room, Stephanie, that now we've got that bitch and we own that bitch or whatever. And really, really fantastically at that moment, she goes from being timid and sort of afraid because she's in a new environment, and also like her UFC career kind of ended on a dour note. She had been beat in her last couple of fights in the UFC. She went from being this unstoppable killer to being, kind of a fallen star. Now she's in the WWE, and she went from being timid and unsure of herself to just snapping into that Ronda Rousey killing machine that we all kind of want to see. So really looking forward to seeing what they do with her. Sort of the scuttlebutt is that it's going to be Triple H and Stephanie versus Ronda Rousey and a partner. They're kind of setting it up that it'll be Kurt Angle. Ronda put Triple H through the table, which was an amazing moment. And then Stephanie slapped her across the face and then got the hell out of Dodge when Ronda gave her sort of the death stare, which is fantastic. You kind of want to give a little taste of, Stephanie, you're going to get yours, but not now. We're going to make them wait until WrestleMania for her to actually get her comeuppance. It could be absolutely fantastic. I'm a little bit hesitant. I don't really want to see Kurt Angle wrestle anymore. The man's neck kind of looks like a stiff breeze will break it again. It's kind of crazy to think that Kurt Angle is cleared to wrestle technically, but Daniel Bryan isn't. Daniel Bryan, of course, had a bunch of concussions, which led him to have to end his in-ring career. And sort of the whole thought process is that as soon as he's no longer contracted to the WWE, there's a very good chance that he ends up somewhere else wrestling. If he is well enough to do it, then by all means, the WWE's primary physician will not clear him to wrestle. But he's had independent third parties look over his charts and say that he actually should be fine to go. So I don't know. It's one of those things where like I don't know how I feel about Daniel Bryan wrestling again. But I definitely just don't want to see. I just don't want to see Kurt Angle in that ring, man. Like he came back and he did a match, the Survivor Series, and that was okay. But oh man, like everything looks so ginger, and I don't really care for it. So we'll see. But I'm really excited to see Ronda Rousey get in there, mix it up. I've seen some shots of her training. She seems to have a pretty good. I mean, she's an elite level athlete. She will pick it up, but she seems to be picking it up pretty well. So, a lot to look forward to there. Speaking of looking forward to things, so local professional wrestling organization here in Halifax, UCW, was looking at their 11th anniversary show. They were going to do a War Games match, have some big names, some local big names, and just run a show. Unfortunately, what ended up happening was the WWE's coming to town as well, and it was actually on the very same day. The SmackDown brand was coming to the Forum. So UCW, of course, have to move their show. A lot of fans want to be able to go to the WWE show, of course. I'd love to be able to go. I don't think I'm going to be able to afford it, but I'd love to be able to go, but we'll see. So UCW, they moved the date of their show, but as a special sort of present to the fans, I imagine that WWE must have caught wind of this and offered to help out, because that's kind of been their modus operandi for small local indies. They don't want true blue competition, the WWE, but they do want wrestling as a whole to be healthy, I think. UCW now is going to have WWE United Kingdom champion, the Bruiserweight, Pete Dunne, facing off against former WWE UK champion Tyler Bate. For the first time ever, a WWE champion is going to be wrestling on a local indie show here in Halifax, and that is it was last year's match of the year for NXT, I do believe. So, man, I'm looking forward to that one. Tyler Bate he's like only just turned 20, and he's just a really fantastic talent. And of course, Pete Dunne is just a vicious heel, and I absolutely love it. So that one I will definitely be looking to getting tickets for. I need to see that match live and in person. Local wrestling in this city, man, it's changed. Back when I was first starting to go to shows here, you were lucky to see in your main event somebody like Chavo Guerrero against a local talent. Now you're getting like bona fide stars in on the independent wrestling circuit here. I got to see AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels live and in person. I got to see Samoa Joe live and in person. Colt Cabana. They're realizing that they got to bring in real top level talent in order to make things interesting. And it's not just old guys from the past. Not to say that Chavo Guerrero, when I did go see Chavo Guerrero wrestle here, he was really fantastic. But like the matches that were like Bushwhacker Luke and the genius Lanny Poffo against a couple of local guys who really cares what their names were, because this was just basically a way to get the stereotypical Bushwhacker taunts in, and then moonsault from like 56-year-old Lanny Poffo, which, don't get me wrong, I popped. But to be able to see guys sort of in the prime of their career that have some name value coming through Halifax, it's a change that I am more than happy to start seeing more and more of. Not to say that I disliked having some of the legends. I got to meet Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I got to meet the Genius. I got to meet Chavo Guerrero. I got to meet Bret Hart. I basically and also they brought in more recently. They brought in Jake the Snake. They brought in Mick Foley for a signing. It's cool. Like, it's cool to have both, but to to definitely have the younger guys who are sort of still in the prime of it, still doing it, bringing a really fantastic level of professional wrestling to Halifax. I'm on board. Want to see more of it, and I'm looking forward to Bate versus Dunn here in Halifax.